to our first. I've been trying to do this thing for about 13 years now. So I want to thank everybody for coming on to the Zoom. I know we've been going through a pandemic for the last year, going on almost probably over a year now. But one thing this pandemic did do is give us the opportunity to learn how to Zoom. I've done something similar to this, again, about 13, 14 years ago. I know because I used to give out a book, and the last time I did it, it says 2007 on it. So that's been the last time I've done something like this. The course we did, it went from, it was a 30-hour training course. It was 18 hours of educational training, what we're doing now. It was 12 hours of field training. So that means when we hit the field, the leagues we used to do in Tampa, they had scrimmages. And so the guys would be required to go to the scrimmage game, the jamboree, and all that would count toward their 30 hours of training. And we did that every single year. Every year we'd get together, put on a PowerPoint training going from Rule 1 to Rule 10. I'll make a booklet, and then we'll go from there. What's most likely is going to happen, obviously I'm not making them a book. Some things expensive to go to Kinko's and get all those copies made for everyone. If I do ever make a book again, we will just post it online. You can print it if you want and stuff like that. But what we're trying to do here is, I know some of y'all are veteran officials, some of y'all might be new. We want to get everybody on the same page. That's what we want to do here. Everybody on the same page. Everybody at the same level of understanding of the rules. Now, I know many of you guys, I work with people who don't know the rules. Some coaches don't know the rules. Some referees don't know the rules. So we want to try to change that. And this is just the beginning of what we want to do on a continual basis. I'm so excited about it because it's something I've been wanting to do for so long. Now we get to do it. So before we go to the PowerPoint, a couple of things I want to bring out. On the website, on our PGO website, www.programofficials.com, I have on the front page, I've posted some a handout that Tony made, and I better left it in the van. And it has some questions on there that y'all can answer, right? There's gonna be about anywhere from 10 to 15 questions that's gonna pertain to what we're going over today. So next week, when we cover the next rule, there'll be a handout with questionnaires that you can answer to see, if you retain information that you received today. I'm hoping that y'all got everybody got a pencil and paper, right? Something to write down with, some take notes. No, Adrian. It's important. It's important that you guys able to take notes. Remember, a short pencil is better than a long-term memory, right? And that's the key here. So there's a couple things we're gonna go. We'll go over rules, and I may cover some mechanics in the rules, and then we're gonna cover philosophy, which is the most important part of this. It's not more just knowing the rules, it's having the judgment on how to apply and how to execute the rules. What do I throw a flag on this? Do I call this foul? Do I not call this foul? So we're gonna be going through all those as we're going through this. So let me go ahead and share the screen again so we can get to our PowerPoint here. All right, and I lost everybody again. And move this back over here. There you go. All right. So everybody can see the PowerPoint on the other side? Give me a thumbs up. All right, cool.
Looking good.
Thank you. All right, so this course is called the General Overview course, right? So basically, we're going to be going through Rule 1 through Rule 10 and just get a quick overview of the rules. We're not going to spend a lot of time on it. Not going to be obviously not going to be going line by line. I take the time and I put these things together. So plain and simple. All right, one of the biggest things we want to get an understanding of is we're going to be going to our National Federation of High School rules. And the reason why, because for most of us, that's the highest level we're going to be doing, right? A lot of us out of our peak, and I don't think none of us trying to go to NCAA. Definitely not going to make it to the NFL. I'm not saying you won't, I'm just saying I was actually trying. So because the National Federation of High School rules is our highest achievement, we're going to be learning the National Federation of High School rules. But a couple of things I want us to understand as we go through this, because we also do youth, right? We do either TYFL, Elite, Mid-Florida, wherever the case may be, Spring League, stuff like that. And in the front of this book here, and the very front, before you go over any pages, it says the National Federation State High School Association writes playing rules for varsity competition among student athletes of high school age. So plain and simple, these rules are not written for youth. All right, these rules are written, are even not even written for JV. Honestly, one moment, guys. I forgot to turn the AC on. It's not even written for JV. These rules are meant for varsity level football. And I'll tell you why that's important here in a minute. So the national Nfhs rules are used by non-educational based organizations serving children of varying skills levels in order to make the Nfhs rules skill level and age level appropriate. The rules may be modified by any organization for children who are younger or less skilled than high school varsity athletes. Now, again, let's talk about philosophy as we go and as we learn the rules. We're going to be learning the rules from the high varsity level. Understand that when we're doing youth football, guys, they're going to be modified, but these kids are not high school kids, right? Anybody ever took children's psychologists, or study how children learn and behave? For more, I've taken some, and one thing I learned that your attention span is 1 minute per age, right? So if you're 2 years old, we can hold your attention for 2 minutes, but we have to change something else, right? If you're 3 years old, we can hold your attention span for three minutes. So we got these kids out here, and we're trying to tell them to get in formation, to stay on the line, and don't move. It can be difficult. And so we have to, as officials, we have to understand that we're officiating kids by a book that is actually meant for high school kids. So that means when we're making judgments, we have to use prudence and we have to use common sense when making calls or deciding what calls we're going to make and what calls we're not going to make. So it's a phrase that I came up with a couple of years ago, and I call it age-based officiating. All right, age-based, how you doing? Age-based officiating. And what that means is always consider the skill level and age level of younger players and use prudent judgment in regards to rule infractions. okay? So the younger they are, the more patient we need to be. As they get older, then we can get a little bit more tighter. But I also look at the skill level. If I got players out there and you can tell right away, right? They can barely get to the line of scrimmage. The coach spending more time trying to move them in position than anything else. So when we're looking at the intent of the rule and the letter of the rule, we also need to realize the spirit of the rule and why we actually here and how to keep this game moving and flowing and fun for its participants. All right. So what's the objective for all this? Why are we even doing this? All right. All right. To obtain a general knowledge of the National Federation of High School Rules from a game official perspective. Right. You got coach's perspective. You got player's perspective. We want to look at the rules from a from an official's perspective. To develop a working knowledge of how to apply the rules in game scenarios. So we're going to be looking at how to apply these rules in scenarios that comes about during a game. And to open a forum for discussion to facilitate interactive learning. So that's what we're doing here. You guys are going to be able to ask questions about what we're covering. And hopefully we can answer those questions. Now, there are some rules to that. Yeah? All the questions you ask, we ask that it pertains to what we're actually covering, okay? We don't want to be answering questions about a Rule 5 or Rule 6. If we cover in Rule 1, you have any questions pertaining to Rule 1, then bring those questions up. If you have anything else, just text me or call me and we will cover that as we go. All right. So real quick, any questions for anybody? Nope. All right, here we go. All right. So this is the first course. So it's called a general overview course. My goal is to create 3 more courses. And the one we want to come up with next is going to be what we call the basic course. And then what we're going to do is right now, like I said, we're covering the rules, but we're going to be covering really fast, just getting the basic knowledge of the rules. But we're not going to spend a lot of detailed time on this. But the basic course, we're going to be a more in-depth study, is going to cover Rule 3, 4, and 7. So we're going to spend a majority of our course looking at those 3 particular rules. And those rules are very important because it really has to deal with, everybody should know, right? How snapping the ball, from passing the ball, from the clock, from substitutions, things of that nature. Those are the 3 rules of the basic course that we're going to be developing next. The next one is going to be the intermediate course, and that's going to cover rules 6 and 8. We're going to talk about new force. We're going to talk about how can the offense score a 1-point safety on a try, and things of that nature, and how the scoring and things of that nature. The advanced course is going to cover Rule 5, 9, and 10. And this a lot dealing with those going to be white hats, how to mark off things correctly with all but one principle, and downs and things of that nature. So those are the upcoming courses that will be coming our way in the near future. I actually thought this is part-time now, so I can have time to do this for you guys. All right. So mental exercise, right? And I asked some of these same questions, and I want you guys to be honest with yourself, right? As officials, it's all about integrity, right? Because what I found is that a lot of officials don't read rule books, right? They get secondhand knowledge, right? Even this is considered secondhand knowledge. You're borrowing my knowledge. But if you don't read the rule book for yourself, you don't own it, right? You only borrow it. So the first mental exercise is this question here. If you could only throw a flag on fouls you personally read in the rule book, how many flags could you throw? Right? In other words, if you haven't read it, you might know it's a foul, but if you haven't read it in the rule book, you can't throw that foul. You can't throw that flag. All right? The next one, it gets a little deeper. If you could only throw a flag, if you can point what rule in the rule book where it can be found, how many flags could you throw? And last one, if you could only throw a flag, if you can point out what rule, section, article where it can be found, how many flags can you throw? All right. So those are just questions that we have to be honest with yourself. Like, do I read the rule book? Do I just basically read it? Right. We did a game, the spring ball, I think a couple of Saturdays ago. A guy came up to us, he said he's a referee. He says, there are no more five-yard face mask fouls anymore. And we looked at him like, what? Yeah, they don't got 5-yard fouls. And I'm like, well, yes, you do. And apparently he doesn't read the rule book, right? So I got this from the National Association of Sports Officials, a little banner that has it. The rules are just ink on paper. Without us, they are easily bent and broken. We relish the challenge of using them to craft a game fairly played. And I made this comment before. Without rules, there's only insanity and chaos. Matter of fact, with rules, there's insanity and chaos. I'm going to be honest with you, but we'll pretend like we're doing a good job there. All right. So, rule 1: the game, the field, players, and equipment. I'm sorry, I gotta keep getting people into the training. I don't have a co-host today, so I have to keep looking up to do that. All right, section 1, the game. So this is the first 3 articles in the rule book talks about the simplicity of the game, right? This means we got what? 4 downs to advance the ball, play with an inflated ball. There's 2 teams playing on a rectangular field. There's 11 players that have to start the game. Points are scored. The one with the most points win the game. You can score by touchdowns, successful tries, field goals, safety, and a safety. All of that is mentioned in those 3 articles. I didn't waste my time putting it down there because we all should know that, right? But there's a problem with the simplicity of the game. Anybody can tell me what the problem is? The problem is that that's a common thread throughout all levels of football, right? Youth, high school, college, NFL. The simplicity of the game is all the same, right? The one with the most points win. The problem with that is because it's so simple, coaches think that if in NFL, the 15-yard penalty is an automatic first down, it must be an automatic first down in youth or in high school, right? But it's not. Each level of football have different rules, right? Each level of football have different rules. And this is why it's so important, because in the problem, we get a lot of arguments, and discussions, and coaches get upset because, hey, they got holding in youth, they got holding in the NFL, they got pass interference in youth, they got pass interference in NFL. So that means everything is the same, which is not. And this is why we got to make sure that we actually study the rules that we're officiating. Game officials. All right, the next article, Article 4, talks about game officials, us. And that's why we're here, talking about us. All right. And it says that the game is administered by game officials that you can find in the referee game official manual. And we're not going to spend a lot of time talking about the headlines, been line judge. We're going to talk about what Rule 1 talks about. 2 officials that are pointed out in Rule 1. So why do you think they call us game officials? Right? Why are we called game officials? Well, because without us, the game isn't official. Right? So without us, even a forfeit don't count. Without us, it's just a scrimmage game. Right? The coaches might not like us, but they understand that we're not there. They don't even want to play because why? The game doesn't count. We're needed to be there for the game to count. So a couple of years ago, I'm like, man, I looked in the dictionary, like, how do you define a game official? So after much thought and deliberation, I came up with a definition. A game official is an unbiased professional who is contracted to ensure a contest is played fairly while overseeing the safety and sportsmanship of its participants. All right, that's us. All right, we're contracted to do a job, not to look like officials, but to be game officials. All right, so game authority, and this is high school football, guys. Game officials should assume authority at 30 minutes prior to the game, unless your state association says it'll be earlier or when you get there. But we don't normally have authority on the field until about 30 minutes prior. So that means if you get there and it's like an hour before the game and the team come on the field and they're acting very unsportsmanlike, unless your state association says you can, normally that's outside your jurisdiction. You just we have nothing to do about that. All right. Our authority extends to the referee's declaration of fourth period and overtime. Right. The referee is the white hat. I know we all call ourselves referees, but we're not. Everybody have a job duty and a title. One of our authorities is clerical. That's why we keep a data card, because we shall have authority over all clerical pertaining to the game. The score, who committed unsportsmanlike conduct, who been disqualified. We are responsible for keeping track of that, and that's why we use data cards. And to make decisions on infractions of the rules, and I'll cover that in a little more detail later on. All right, so in Rule 1, the very first one that is talked about is the referee, right? The referee shall meet with head coaches to employ sportsmanship or to direct them that sportsmanship is very important. I didn't put this in there, but what I did was I like to look up words, I like to break words into different parts. So sportsmanship is 2 words, sport and manship. And sport is basically a team that competes against another team. Manship is skill in a particular activity, especially of competitive nature. Talent, skill, and then it also says in the dictionary, courtesy, honor, and respect. So basically, if I had to define what sportsmanship is, or if I had to tell somebody about sportsmanship, it'd be as you display your talent and skills against your opponent, be courteous, play with honor, show respect to the other team. Right? And throughout FHA rulebook, you'll see that sportsmanship is a major issue, a major concern, and point of emphasis all the time. right? We got to make sure that we understand how important sportsmanship is. All right, the referee verified with head coach that players use legal equipment and no players have illegal equipment, and we'll talk about that later. The referee approves the game balls, approves the game clock operator, rule promptly on situations not covered in the rules. All right, the decisions to forfeit a game is final. All decisions are final in all matters pertaining to the game. All right, so obviously the referee is very important, has a very important role, and typically a referee is a position where as a new guy, you would never start it, right? You might start as a head linesman, a line judge, an umpire, a back judge, but typically the referee is retained for those with more experience than the veteran official. And also declare the end of the contest. So the umpire is also mentioned in Rule 1, and it all pertains to players' equipment. The first thing in there is auxiliary equipment may be worn if sanctioned by the umpire as being soft, non-abrasive, non-hardening material. Now, if we're doing three-man mechanics and if we don't have an umpire, the referee can designate the line judge to take the umpire responsibilities, or he can retain those responsibilities himself. Any questions regarding legality of players' equipment or presence of required equipment shall be resolved by the umpire. And the last one, no player shall participate while wearing illegal equipment. This applies to any equipment which is in the opinion of the umpire is dangerous, confusing, or inappropriate, right? So he sanctioned, resolved, and in his opinion, rule on all things pertaining to players' equipment, right? Very important, I like that word opinion, because you might think it's okay, but the umpire don't think it's okay, then it's not okay. So this is my favorite rule in the rule book, right? And it talks about our discretionary judgment. And Article 9, it says that the game official shall have authority to make decisions for rule infractions. This is important to me because we hear all the time, you have to make that call, right? Oh, that was a false start, you have to call that. And don't get me wrong, we use prudent judgment, but there's nowhere in the rule book, matter of fact, the rule says it clearly that we make decisions regarding rule infractions. Decision means yes or no, right? Do I wear a black shirt or do I wear a blue shirt? Do I call a foul or do I not call a foul? Do I maintain a 25-second play clock or do I give them more time? That's on us. There's no rule that says that we have to call everything by the book, all right? Example, I remember I was doing Hurricane Irma. I was driving, I was doing a delivery, and the hurricane was coming. I had to go down to Avon Park and do a delivery. I was in my van on 60, and I'm flying out. I'm just like beating, I'm just flying. Well, I wasn't even thinking, I flew by a police officer, right? Before I know it, he pulled me over. He said, "Where are you going?" I'm like, "Man, I gotta get down here and do a delivery." He took my license and he came back and he said, "What do I have in my hand?" I'm like, "My license. I don't have a ticket." He says, "I'm not gonna give you a ticket, but you need to slow down and drive safely," right? So did I break the law? Did I infraction a rule? Yes. But he had the discretion to either give me a ticket or not give me a ticket and give me a warning. He decided to give me a warning. as a game officials, we have that same authority. We can decide to throw a flag, or we can decide to give a warning. So, not every rule infraction deserves a flag, right? And we'll talk about more of that as we go. We should always try to understand the spirit and intent of the rules, not just the letter of the rules, right? This is false start, okay? But I have to call every false start I see. We can divide rule infraction into two categories, minors and majors, all right? Major, obviously anything dealing with safety or conduct. We definitely should hit those, but a team illegal formation, do we have to call it? No, we don't. Somebody line up in neutral zone, do we have to call it? No, we don't have to call it. We can choose to tell the team, we can base everything on their skill development, the ages, all those things that we talked about earlier. We can bring those in consideration when deciding that we should or should not make that call. Always flag rule infractions that involve participant safety and conduct. Strive to view rule infraction through the lens of advantage, disadvantage, right? Did it give the other team advantage or not, right? And if you work on, if you apply those rules there, you should always make, or you should always make the right call. All right. The National Federation of High School rules prohibits the use of any replay or television monitoring equipment by game officials in making any decisions relating to the game. Hey, real man, look at my film. That was a face mask. No, can't do that. All right. Now the rules have changed. The state association may create instant replay procedures that permit game and replay officials to use replay monitoring during state postseason contests to determine if decisions by on-field officials is incorrect. All right. I'm gonna go to the bathroom real quick, get some water, do a little stretching. No. Okay. Section 2, the field and the markings. Okay, yard line markers. Now, the biggest thing about yard line markers that I want to talk about is these teams love to put these yard line markers right on the sideline, right? Guys, as officials, they help us two things to get those markers off the sideline. No matter, I tell my guys put them 2 yards back. It says no closer than 5 yards to the sideline. But I use them to point to the teams, saying, look, stay behind the yard markers, right? Tell them stay behind the yard markers, you give them a something to identify with and something for the coaches to help keep their players behind the yard markers, which that's what I like to use them for. You get to the field, move those things back. All right. And flexible pylons, the 4-inch cones, high, orange, red, yeah, does not create a risk. Everybody know about that. All right. The football field. That's the diagram of the football field. Let's get into it. All right, yard line shall be marked with a continuous line every 5 yards, beginning at the ending 4-inch from each line. In the field of play are numbered from a team's. In the field of play, I think I missed something. Yard lines are numbered from a team's own goal line to the middle of the field. So it goes 5, 10, all the way up. I think what struck me about this one a couple of years ago is that when it says it's start and ends 4 inches from each sideline. You know what? When I go to youth game, the yard lines go from sideline to sideline. I didn't realize that there should be a space in between. The yard line should not connect to the sidelines. End lines and sidelines shall be continuous line with 4 inches width. the boundary lines are the end lines, and the sidelines are out of bounds. All right, so again, end lines and sidelines, everybody know that it's just a big rectangle around the field. The restraining line, which you'll probably never see at a youth game unless you're playing on a turf field. A 4-inch wide restraining line shall be placed around the outside of the field at least 2 yards from the sideline and end line. Marked by spacing 12-inch long lines separated with 24-inch intervals. That means just dotted lines. No person shall be allowed within the restraining line. So at a high school game, no film, no principal. Those lines should be clear of cheerleaders. No one should be within inside that restraining line near the field. Right? If we can only do that for youth. All right. The additional lines will aid officials in keeping non-team personnel outside the team box from getting too close to the field. Hash marks, everybody know what hash marks are? Hash marks do divide the field into longitudes or thirds, right? So divide the field into 3 parts. Marked so that each 5-yard line bisects the hash marks. 9-yard marks. Now, we really don't see this too much on youth fields, although it should be on there because we do need it. But it's, the length is 12 inches and 4 inches, located 9 yards from the sideline, marked every 10 yards. And if the field has visible numbers on it, like the picture behind me, the 40 and the 50, you do not need to have the 9-yard mark. The top of the numbers at the top of the 4 is the 9-yard mark. Anybody know why that's important for us?
I think that's what
Again? Why is the 9-yard mark very important for us? After the ball is ready for play, each player of 8 who participate must have been momentarily between the 9-yard marks before the snap. All right. So basically, if a receiver come off his team sideline and line up as a receiver, he has to first run into the numbers, the yard marks, and then come back out to line up as a receiver. That's to prevent that little sneaky receiver coming in and trying to get a quick pass play without being guarded. So if you don't have a 9-yard mark, you need to make sure that if you're a wing official and a player comes on the field, you need to go onto the field closer and then come back out to line up. Now, the defender already see him. The intent of that is to prevent him sneaking on the field without getting guarded. Now, if you come on the field and the defensive end or linebacker or cornerback sees him and go lines up in front of him, then you realize and you don't have to worry about that much because he's being, there's somebody who's covering him. But if he just come on the field, sneaking on the field, it'll be a foul legal formation. Team box. This is something that every coach in youth, they respect this team box. 25-25, coach's area is 2-yard belt between the front of the team box and the sideline. It becomes a restricted area when the ball is live. All right, maximum of 3 coaches as well as permitted non-players are allowed within the restraining line in front of the team box. Obviously, when the ball becomes live, they got to get out of there. Each goal line shall be entirely in its zone. The goal line shall extend from sideline to sideline. Do everybody know about the goal line extended? Right? The player is inbound and reaches the ball out past the pylon and not in between the pylons, but outside the pylon, still a touchdown, right? That goal line goes from infinity that way to the left, infinity to the right, and infinity into the air. A line 4 inches width and a minimum of 24 inches in length should be centered in the field of play, 3 yards for each goal line is the obvious point of try line. The goal, the measurement is the measurements for the goal line. I'm not going to go over that. The colors can be recommended silver, white, and yellow. What I want to talk about is safety, because it's something that a lot of youth teams don't do, and we really need to stress to these teams that they do this. The goalpost shall be padded with a 6-inch above the ground, and that's very important. We go to so many fields, and there's no goalpost padding out there. Player run into that, and get hurt. So we should really be stressing to the teams that they have a goalpost padding. All right, section 3, questions, any comments? Anybody need to get up and use the bathroom, take some water? What's up, Scott? All right, game equipment. Gotta hurry up. All right. Football, kicking tee, yard chains, timing device, supplemental equipment. I'm gonna talk about 2 of those. The football, each team should provide 1 legal ball. The referee should approve that ball. What's most important I want to talk about, a team may use any referee approved ball of its choice. Another point I like to make, guys, when a team brings a ball to be played in that game, that ball becomes the game ball. That means any team can kick that ball, pass that ball, run with that ball. A team cannot tell you that the other team can't use their football, right? Once that ball comes on the field as a game ball, anyone can use that ball. So don't be wasting time throwing balls off the field and then trying to chase another ball down, and you delaying the ready for play, you delaying the game. If it's a change of possession, spot the ball. Right? If they don't give you another ball, guess what? That team gonna play with that ball. So let's not waste our time throwing a ball off the field right away and then spending time on a dead ball with trying to figure out what other ball is that. Keep the ball on the field until the ball is replaced. If it's not replaced, play with that ball. They start screaming, that's our ball. So well, it's our ball today, coach. Equipment, I like to keep the young game equipment at least a yard and a half off the field for youth games. Let's not keep that. I know they're gonna keep that chains on the sideline. Let's get about a yard and a half off the sideline for everyone's safety. Player designation. Each team's a designated player as a field captain, and he is the only player who may communicate with game officials. The field captain represents his team during pregame and coin toss, penalty decisions following a foul, if so designated, and ball placement. Like, on a kickoff, he's out wearing a hash mark or wherever we put the ball at. There's little 8 things you can read that in Rule 232.5. All right, a player is designated by his position on offense during the snap. Each player shall be numbered 1 through 99. There's no 0 numbers in high school football, guys. It starts at 1 and it goes to 99. 0 is an illegal number. All right, head coach shall designate a representative to make decisions regarding penalties. Designee shall remain in place for the entire game. His first decision is final. So if he decides we want to accept the penalty, that's it. No, we don't want to accept it now. No, before you make your decision, whatever decision you make, you can't change it. And then the last thing is, decision must be made before any charge timeout. So guys, if you're a wing guy and we have a foul on the play, flag on the play, and we're trying to figure out what we're going to do, if your team say, I want a timeout, let them know we can't get a timeout until after the decision has been made for the foul. We're almost done. What time is it? Got 3 minutes. Player equipment. Prior to the start of the game, the head coach shall be responsible for verifying to the referee and another game official that all his players are legally equipped and will use no illegal equipment. Very important factor that the coaches became verification to the referee and another game official that all players are legally equipped and in compliance includes the helmet exterior warning label. I remember mentioning this to Tony. Tony said, look, I'm not walking around looking at people's helmets to make sure they got that warning label on there. But no, if you take a test, that if you find a helmet that doesn't have the external warning label on it, that is a legal helmet and a 15-yard penalty are assessed to the head coach. Haves and have-nots. All right. The player must have a helmet and face mask, a mouthpiece, shoulder pads, jersey, hip pads, tailbone protectors, knee guards, knee pads, pants that cover the knees, and shoes. So, if a kicker come out there with one shoe on and one shoe not on a kick, is that legal? In high school football, can a kicker kick barefooted? No, he has to have a shoe on. All right, may have rim protectors, all these, right? The gloves, if they wear gloves, gotta have the nostril, all the towels must be the same color, right? So if I'm wearing a blue towel and the other guy's wearing a white towel, one of the guys, both of us got to take it off. You can have two different color towels in high school football. Skull caps. If you're wearing a bandana or a skull cap, it has to be completely covered by the helmet. It can't be protruding from the helmet. So if you put it, if I can see your bandana from outside the helmet, all is live. No player should participate while wearing illegal equipment. All right, cannot have ball color helmets, jersey patches, exterior pads, undershirt or glove, nothing to match the ball. Hard substance or sharp plastic edges. Sticky, slippery or sticky substance. Items that enhance contact. Tearaway jersey or knot. So you see a player tying a knot in his jersey, you gotta take the knot out. Adornments other than a towel or sweatbands. And if you're wearing a sweatband, it's only can be on the wrist. All right, no biceps, no thighs, none of that stuff. No jewelry, no tinted eye shield. I know you see this player here with tinted eye shield. Remember, this is high school. We somewhat suspend that rule. We don't really enforce it. Matter of fact, other than the sticky and ball color stuff, I mean, they want to wear sweatbands on their heads, forearms, legs. We don't. It's a minor rule infraction, and it's mostly for high school, so we don't really enforce that stuff at the youth level. Electronic equipment, in other words, you can't have a little mic in his helmet. And any exposed bandanas, we already talked about that, and bicep bands. All right, when any required equipment is missing or worn improperly, a player shall be replaced for at least one down. So if you wanted to, if you see a player with his mouthpiece in his mouth, it's no longer a foul. What you can do, you can call official timeout. If you do that, player has to leave the game for one play. That's your discretion. I don't waste my time with it. That's my opinion. But if he can be, let's say, if he can put his mouthpiece in before he's ready for play or put a ball and snap, he doesn't have to be replaced. All right, I get it. What time is it? 9:02. What? All right, guys. I'm gonna unmute you guys real fast over here. Unmute yourselves. Any